Welcome back! I'm still on the Pass More practice page, waiting for Mr. Ortega to pass me. To pass, I have to read the story accurately. I can only make 3 mistakes. I also have to meet my goal and read with good expression, which is the score of 2 or more. All my answers to the quiz questions have to be right, too. And my teacher has to accept my retelling. Mr. O is ready to pass me. He clicks Conduct Pass Activities and logs in. If I don't have a recording, I click Start Timing when I'm ready and I start reading the story to him. If I do have a recording, Mr. O tells me if he wants us to listen to the recording together or if he wants to hear me read out loud to him. I'll show you both ways. If Mr. O wants me to read for him live instead of grading the recording, I click the Start Live Timing option. Then I start reading the story. I'll show you how that works. Martin Cooper stood on a busy city street holding a strange object. During the pass step, I can't click on words I miss, so Mr. O has to count my errors. He pays attention to my expression too. I read until the timer sounds or until I finish the story. But you might not recognize it. It would never have fit in your pocket. At nearly a...
Click on the last word read when the bell sounded.
See the number of words I read? Mr. O enters my errors, and the program figures out my timing score, which is the number of words I read correctly. Mr. Ortega rates my expression a 4. If Mr. O wants to grade the recording instead of hearing me read live, we click this score recording option, and my recording starts to play. Martin Cooper stood on a busy city street holding a strange object. I have to listen carefully and follow along so I can click the last word read after the bell rings. Even if Mr. O controls the mouse, I have to listen carefully, because at the end of the recording, he always asks me what mistakes I heard. Then he enters the number of errors and the expression score, just like for a live reading. When we're done, we click Next. Remember this graph? The blue bar shows how well I read the story the first time. The red bar shows how much I improved after working on the story. And look, the gray bar is totally covered by the red bar, which means I passed my goal. Now we check the short answer question together. It's fun to compare my answer to the expert's answer. Looks like Mr. O thinks my answer's right. Next, Mr. O reads my retelling. He says it's good and clicks Yes. When I used to work in the Phonics stories, my teacher listened to me read the word list instead of checking a retelling. It worked like the story. If I didn't have a recording or my teacher wanted me to read live, I read all the words down the columns and across the rows while my teacher counted my mistakes. If I had a recording, we would listen to it together. Make, lake, sake, snake. We would click Finished after I finished reading down the columns on the recording. We'd click Finished again after I read across all the rows. Then we'd enter the number of mistakes we counted. Either way, at the end, we saw how long it took me to read the word list. Since it took less than 60 seconds and I didn't make more than 3 mistakes, I passed the word list. Now Mr. O and I are ready to review my work on the cell phone story. The stars show which requirements I met. The X shows I didn't meet the quiz requirement, so I'll have to fix one question to pass the story. Sometimes Mr. O helps me when I get a question wrong. This time I missed the sequencing question. We look at my answer together. And I tell him I moved this event to the top because it's the first thing the author wrote about in the story. Mr. O explains that even though the author started the story with Martin taking the cell phone onto the street, that's not the first event that happened in time. He helps me figure out that the cell phone had to be made before Martin could take it onto the street. Then Mr. O shows me the correct answer. Now I get it. I'm supposed to put the events into chronological order, the order they happened in time, not the order they were talked about in this story. Then Mr. O clicks the fluency button to see a graph that shows all my cold and hot timing scores in this level. Look, my cold timing scores are going up. The comprehension button brings up another graph. See all the blue boxes? Those are the questions I got right the first time. The red boxes are the questions I needed to fix. I feel good when a story has all blue boxes, like this one. This retell graph shows the number of words I wrote about each story. A blue bar means Mr. O accepted my work. A red bar means my retelling or summary of the story wasn't good enough, so I had to fix it to pass. I used to see this graph when I worked in the Phonics stories. It showed the time it took me to read each word list. Look, the time went down because I got faster. I only see this page if I don't meet all the requirements. Gold stars show what I passed, and red X's show what I need to fix. Mr. O selects redo missed questions. I have just one question to redo, and if I get it right, I'll meet the quiz requirement and pass this story. This time, I'm putting it in chronological order so I don't get it wrong again.
Congratulations! You passed this story. Click Done to finish.
I did really well. I got 5 gold medals, 1 for every requirement. And look, 3 of them have blue ribbons. I got blue ribbons for meeting my goal on my first try, for getting a 4 on my expression, and for passing my retell on my first try. I could have gotten all 5 blue ribbons if I'd read the story with no mistakes and answered all the questions right the first time.
Please select a story.
Now the cell phone story has a gold star and I can select a new story. So that's it. Now it's your turn to pass. Practice the story and play Wordtastic while you wait for your teacher to come to pass you.